Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on hiring eligibilities and qualifications. My name is Alex Pacheco, and I am a recruiter on the National Strategic Recruitment Team for the USDA Forest Service. During today's session, we will discuss the various hiring eligibilities, otherwise known as hiring paths, the Forest Service uses to fill positions. We will also discuss the importance of understanding qualification standards that must be met by applicants so they can be referred and therefore considered for positions. There will be a few questions during this presentation that we'd like you to answer. When you see them on the screen, please click the Ask a Question button and submit your answers into the Q&A pod. Before we start, I do want to go over some tips to ensure you get the most out of today's session. First, we have a lot of information to share with you, so please feel free to grab something to take notes with. This session is being recorded and will be accessible through the same link you joined today immediately after our session concludes. Closed captions are available for anyone that would like to use them. The next slide will give a visual of how to access the closed caption option. If a slide is difficult to see, you can zoom in by pressing Ctrl=. To zoom out, press Ctrl-. We are unable to assist with connection or technical issues and recommend contacting your local IT support or help desk for those. We will have a Q&A session at the end of this presentation, so please enter your questions into the Q&A pod as they come up. You can enable live captioning by clicking the closed captioning button in the bottom right corner of the video player. Now I'd like to take a minute to introduce you to our team. The USDA Forest Service National Strategic Recruitment Team is a diverse group of employees who are skilled in assisting applicants who are interested in a Forest Service career. We have folks who have field experience, others have worked in HR for a long time, some have managed programs, and a few are just starting their own federal careers. We provide informational webinars, individual consultations, outreach to community organizations, and other resources to assist potential applicants. You might even see our team at career fairs, national conferences, or at your local college or university. At the end of today's session, we will provide you with several ways to reach out to our team. USA Jobs is an online system where you can access almost all federal job announcements. It is the system used by agencies to post opportunities and allow applicants a specific period to apply and submit their applications, should they wish to be considered for federal career opportunities. Our team regularly hosts webinars on navigating USA Jobs and how to apply within the website. Please be sure to check out our Forest Service Jobs website to stay notified of future webinar events. We will share that web address with you at the end of our presentation. USA Jobs is the federal government's main employment portal. It is mainly used by executive branch agencies to post competitive civil service positions, such as positions for current federal employees, as well as limited accepted service positions, such as positions under the Pathways programs. Most civil service hiring begins on this site. However, some jobs may be found on agency websites as well. While this is the site where you will find opportunities and announcements, as well as where you begin your application submission, your federal application is not complete until you finish it in the agency's system. To learn more about this, we recommend attending one of our Navigating USA Jobs webinars, where we walk you through the process step by step. The federal government offers many hiring paths to recruit and hire from different groups of people. For example, there are hiring paths for veterans, Peace Corps, and VISTA alumni, military spouses, students and recent graduates, and individuals with disabilities. There are even opportunities open to all U.S. citizens. Job seekers will be able to identify their eligibility and search all opportunities available. These hiring authorities are established by law or an executive order and identify certain categories of individuals eligible for federal jobs. We encourage you to review this chart within USA Jobs to learn more about each eligibility and determine which are applicable to you. If you are not deemed eligible for the hiring path you apply under, then you will be marked ineligible and your application will not be considered. Now we have a challenge for you. Where can you find the hiring authority info within a USA Jobs announcement? A, the overview section. B, the this job is open to section. C, the required documents section. D, all of the above. Place your answers into the Q&A pod now. We will give the correct answer on the next slide. Understanding what hiring authorities you may be eligible for will help you determine which jobs you may apply to and what documents and requirements might be needed for your application. You can apply to any job, however, you may not be found eligible if you don't show that you meet the requirements for the advertised hiring path or authority. If you answered B on that last question, you are correct. Listed in the This Job is Open To section of the job announcement is where you would find the listing of approved hiring authorities being utilized to fill those identified positions. You should click on each hiring authority to learn more about them so you can determine if you meet the requirements. You can also find more information in the Clarification from the Agency section of the job announcement. Be sure to choose the hiring paths that are applicable to you within your USA Jobs profile when setting it up for the first time. Don't forget to update them if your situation changes and you find that your hiring paths also change. There are multiple ways to search for jobs using various criteria, such as location, department, agency, pay, work schedule, and others. Additionally, you can search for available job opportunities based on the hiring path. On the right side of the USA Job search screen, as shown above, we are searching for positions that are open to the public and veterans. Once you have narrowed the filters and preferences for your job search, including searching on the hiring path, you may save the search. The system will email you automatically when opportunities pop into USA Jobs that match your search criteria. This feature saves you from having to perform searches manually in USA Jobs every day. The notification frequency can be tailored to your needs as well and can be set to daily, weekly, monthly, etc. Another option is to save the job. By doing this, you can review opportunities before the closing date and ensure you get your application submitted prior to the deadline. Now, let's discuss some of the more common hiring paths or eligibilities used by the Forest Service. For positions advertised as open to the public, you are eligible if you're a U.S. citizen or national. Anyone, including current federal employees, can apply to these jobs. But if you're a current federal employee and you apply to an open to the public job, you'll have to compete against the general public. Your status as a federal employee does not guarantee you'll get the job. Depending on the position, you may need to provide several different documents with your application. The Requirement Documents section in the job announcement will list all required application materials you must submit with your package. Veterans encompass a large portion of the federal government, and as such, certain preferences are given to veterans to assist with an easy transition back into civilian life. With veterans preference, you may receive preference over non-veteran applicants in the hiring process. Veterans preference can be used when applying to permanent and temporary positions in both the competitive and accepted service of the executive branch. There are three types of veterans preferences: disabled, 10-point preference eligible; non-disabled, 5-point preference eligible; and sole survivorship, 0-point preference eligible. When claiming veterans preference, you must provide a copy of your DD-214, certificate of release or discharge from active duty, or other acceptable documentation. Applicants claiming 10-point preference will need to submit Form SF TAC 15 or other acceptable documentation. You can upload and save documents to your USA Jobs account. Once uploaded, you can submit these forms with your job application as needed. If you're a veteran, you may also be eligible for one of these special hiring authorities. Veterans Recruitment Appointment, or VRA, 30% or more disabled veteran. Veterans Employment Opportunity Act of 1998, or VEOA, and disabled veterans enrolled in a VA training program. For more information, please visit the USA Jobs website. The Veterans Employment Opportunities Act of 1998, or VEOA, provides preference-eligible and certain other eligible veterans the opportunity to compete for certain positions announced under an agency's merit promotion procedures. It applies only when the agency is filling a permanent, competitive service position and has decided to solicit candidates from outside its own workforce. It allows eligible veterans and preference eligibles to apply to announcements that would otherwise be open to so-called status candidates, which are current competitive service employees and certain prior employees who have earned competitive status. In order to be considered potentially eligible for a VEOA appointment, your latest discharge must be issued under honorable conditions, which means an honorable or general discharge, and you must be either a preference eligible or a veteran who substantially completed 3 or more years of active service under honorable conditions. As we accommodate the many veterans who volunteer to serve their country, we show the same appreciation for their spouses. Certain hiring paths and authorities are open to military spouses as well. If you're a military spouse, you may be eligible to apply using a non-competitive process designed to help you get a job in the federal government. Federal agencies can use the military spouse non-competitive hiring process to fill positions on either a temporary or permanent basis. You must meet certain criteria for each of these eligibility categories to include a spouse of an active duty member of the armed forces, a spouse of a service member who is 100% disabled due to a service-connected injury, a spouse of a service member killed while on active duty. However, keep in mind you are no longer eligible if you remarry. The documents you may need to include are a marriage certificate, a copy of your spouse's active duty orders, DD-214, certificate of release or discharge from active duty, and a DD-1300, report of casualty. Now we have another challenge for you. How many paths are available under the Pathways program? A, 2, B, 3, C, 6, or D, 7? Place your answers into the Q&A pod now. We will give the correct answer on the next slide. If you served with the Peace Corps or AmeriCorps VISTA, which stands for Volunteers in Service to America, as a volunteer or volunteer leader, you may qualify for non-competitive eligibility. You are eligible if your service as a volunteer or volunteer leader totals at least 1 year with the Peace Corps or 1 year of service with the AmeriCorps VISTA. Your non-competitive eligibility lasts for 1 year after completing your Peace Corps or AmeriCorps service. Federal agencies may extend the period for up to 3 years if, after your completed service, you are in the military service, studying at a recognized institution of higher learning, or involved in another activity which, in the agency's view, warrants an extension. Your non-competitive eligibility does not entitle you to a job within the federal government. You must still apply and meet qualification standards and additional requirements, such as background investigation. When applying for a job, include your Peace Corps or AmeriCorps VISTA certification of service documents with your application, and make sure to mention your non-competitive eligibility status on your resume. The Pathways program offers federal internship and employment opportunities for current students, recent graduates, and those with an advanced degree. If you answered B, 3 to the last question, you are correct. There are 3 different paths available. The internship program is for current students. If you're a current student in high school, college, trade school, or other qualifying educational institution, you may be eligible. This program offers paid opportunities to work in federal agencies and explore federal careers while completing your education. The recent graduate program is for those who have graduated within the past 2 years from a qualifying educational institution or certificate program. The recent graduate program offers career development with training and mentorship. You must apply within 2 years of getting your degree or certificate. Veterans may have up to 6 years to apply if their initial 2-year period was interrupted due to their military service obligations. Applicants who are due to graduate within the next 9 months from the job announcement closing date are also considered recent graduates and may apply under this hiring authority. The Presidential Management Fellows, or PMF program, is for recent graduates with an advanced degree, either a professional or graduate degree such as a master's, PhD, or JD. You may be eligible if you are a current graduate student and will complete all of your advanced degree requirements to include completion or successful defense of any required thesis or dissertation by August 31st of the following year of the annual application, or you've completed an advanced degree from a qualifying educational institution or program within the past 2 years of the annual application opening date. Schedule A refers to a special hiring authority that gives federal agencies an optional and potentially quicker way to hire individuals with disabilities. You can apply for jobs using Schedule A if you are a person with an intellectual, severe physical, or psychiatric disability. The Forest Service does not determine who is eligible for Schedule A. To be eligible for Schedule A, you must provide a proof of disability letter stating that you have an intellectual, severe physical, or psychiatric disability. You can get this letter from your doctor, a licensed medical professional, a licensed vocational rehabilitation specialist, or any federal, state, or local agency that issues or provides disability benefits. Applying using Schedule A can be a great way to get a federal job, but it is only one of many options that may be available, and you still must compete with other eligible applicants. Federal agencies hire people using many options, so applying under Schedule A does not guarantee you a job. Tips for applying under Schedule A include: mention your eligibility and that you want to be considered for Schedule A on your resume and in your cover letter if you use one. If you're eligible for Schedule A, go to your USA Jobs profile and select the Individuals with Disabilities hiring path and make your resume searchable. If your resume is searchable, agencies who are looking for people eligible under Schedule A may be able to find you. Selective Placement Program Coordinators, or SPPCs, help agencies recruit, hire, and accommodate people with disabilities. The SPPC can guide you through the application process and answer questions. Most federal agencies, but not all, have an SPPC or equivalent role, such as a Special Emphasis Program Manager. If you are a person with a disability and interested in a job opportunity, contact the agency SPPC using the Selective Placement Program Coordinator directory available on the USA Jobs website. Federal agencies are required by law to provide reasonable accommodations to qualified applicants and employees with disabilities, unless doing so will result in undue hardship to the agency. The accommodations make it easier for an employee with a disability to successfully perform the duties of the position. For example, an agency may offer interpreters, readers, or other personal assistants, modified position duties, flexible work schedules or work sites, or accessible technology or other workplace adaptive equipment. You can request reasonable accommodations anytime during the hiring process or at any time while on the job. Requests are considered on a case-by-case basis. To request a reasonable accommodation, look at the job posting for instructions on requesting a reasonable accommodation. Work directly with the person arranging the interviews. Contact the agency SPPC and request a reasonable accommodation verbally or in writing. No special language is needed. A direct hiring authority, or DHA, is a hiring authority that the Office of Personnel Management, or OPM, can give to executive agencies with delegated examining authority for filling vacancies when a critical hiring need or severe shortage of candidates exists. For example, the Forest Service is often in need of wildland firefighters and therefore may utilize DHA to fill vacancies. This authority allows an agency to hire, after public notice is given, any qualified applicant and expedite hiring by eliminating competitive rating and ranking, such as veterans preference. The image you see here is an example of verbiage an agency will include in their job announcements when using DHA. Applicants must meet all the requirements of the position they are applying to, including qualifications, experience, education, and licensure or certification. Public Lands Corps and Resource Assistant Program are hiring authorities the Forest Service utilizes to fill positions under merit promotion procedures and will not be found specifically within USA Jobs, as they fall under the General Special Authorities hiring path. Both are non-competitive hiring authorities for permanent general schedule (GS) or wage grade (WG) positions. Candidates that complete the PLC or RAP program and hold a certification of completion can then apply under those hiring authorities for permanent positions with the Forest Service. Although similar, these programs do differ in some areas, such as age requirements, hours of service required. Both allow U.S. citizens to apply, but one also permanent residents. Resource assistance requires a minimum associate's degree of education. PLC hires for both general schedule and wage grade positions. Now we'll dive a little deeper into each. Once a Public Land Corps participant completes their program requirements, they are granted the option to apply to internal merit announcements for permanent positions only. This authority cannot be used when applying for temporary or term positions. You must be eligible and qualify under these certain conditions. Must be a U.S. citizen between 16 to 30 years of age, have successfully completed a Public Land Corps project that includes 640 hours of work on a conservation project, which includes 120 hours on a Forest Service project. The Public Land Corps Certificate of Eligibility must be signed by the designated official before the PLC member turns 31 years old. On this slide, you can see an example. The non-competitive hiring eligibility status with PLC authority cannot exceed more than 2 years after completion of a Public Land Corps service. Non-competitive in this case means the PLC candidates do not have to compete under competitive procedures with other U.S. citizens and jobs open to the public. They are granted a filing privilege to apply under internal merit procedures. Must be onboarded before age of 33. Veterans preference is applicable amongst the PLC candidates that are referred. Agencies have various partnerships to develop resource assistance. The USDA Forest Service Resource Assistance Program is a rigorous, immersive, paid experience for individuals interested in Forest Service careers. Resource assistants work under the mentorship and coaching of Forest Service staff to complete mission-critical work while developing leadership, critical thinking, and strategic communication skills. The program is a vehicle for emerging professionals to launch their natural and cultural resources careers. Eligibility requirements for a research assistant are as follows. Individuals must be a U.S. citizen and may be appointed to general schedule positions on a permanent basis in the competitive service. Resource assistant applicants must be 17 years or older. The applicant must complete 960 hours minimum of full-time or part-time work. However, the work cannot exceed 3,500 hours over a 2-year period. Applicants must earn an undergraduate, minimum associate's, or graduate degree. The qualification requirements stated in the job announcement must be met. It's important to remember that non-competitive status, as well as eligibility for the Forest Service Direct Hire Authority for resource assistance, continues for no more than 2 years after completion of all resource assistance program requirements. The individual must be onboarded before the expiration of the 2 years. Resource Assistance Certificate of Eligibility must be signed by a designated official. Veterans preference is applicable amongst the RAP candidates that are referred. Being a federal employee doesn't mean you're eligible for every federal job, so it's important to understand which service you belong to and the appointment type you are serving on. Understanding this will help you know which jobs you're eligible for and prevent you from spending time on jobs for which you're not eligible. Services are how the federal government describes categories of jobs that provide different options and benefits to the future employee. There are 3 categories of service in the federal government: competitive service, accepted service, and senior executive service, or SES. Competitive service includes positions with agencies that follow the U.S. Office of Personnel Management's hiring rules and pay scales. Accepted service includes positions with agencies that have their own hiring rules, pay scales, and evaluation criteria. And senior executive service includes managerial, supervisory, and policy positions classified above general schedule grade 15 or equivalent positions in most executive branch agencies. On this slide, you can see that in terms of eligibility to apply for merit promotion jobs, this falls under the competitive service, with some exceptions under the accepted service. We will define merit promotion on the next slide. Merit promotion lets a current or former federal employee apply for a job without having to compete with the general public or people with veterans preference. Instead, they compete with other competitive service employees. Veterans who are VEOA eligible may apply for these jobs, but veterans preference does not apply to merit promotion positions. Some federal jobs are only available to current employees of a specific agency. Internal to an agency jobs can be in all 3 services. If you're in the competitive service, you may be eligible to transfer to another position in the competitive service. Former federal employees previously in the competitive service may be eligible for career transition or reinstatement. If your job, agency, or department was eliminated, you may be eligible to receive selection priority over other applicants, leading to a career transition. If you were in the competitive service, you may be eligible to return to the federal government under the reinstatement program. The Land Management Workforce Flexibility Act, or LMWFA, hiring authority is open to current and former temporary and term employees of certain federal land management agencies who meet eligibility requirements. They can apply for permanent positions announced under merit promotion procedures. Applicants may not use this authority to apply to temporary or term positions. Applicants eligible under this authority may apply to job announcements at any agency that are open government-wide. If the job announcement is open Forest Service-wide, only those with Forest Service experience can apply under LMWFA. So please ensure you review the job announcement to understand those specific requirements. The authority does not provide any preference or priority in hiring. It gives temporary employees an opportunity, not previously available, to apply for positions like other federal employees when the job is announced to an agency's own workforce internal to the agency. Applicants must apply and be deemed best qualified to be referred for consideration. To be eligible under LMWFA, applicants must have been initially appointed under competitive procedures. For fur service, the initial appointment must have been made under the Demonstration Project Authority, or DEMO. Initial appointment cannot have been non-competitive, such as Veterans Recruitment Authority or Schedule A. Must have more than 24 months of service under time-limited appointment or appointments in one or a combination of land management agencies. Must not have had a break of more than 2 years. Have had acceptable performance for all periods of service covered in more than 24 months. Additionally, the most recent separation must have been for reasons other than performance or misconduct. Before we jump into the required documents for LMWFA, we have one final challenge for you. True or false? Regarding qualifications, KSAs stands for Knowledge, Skills, and Abilities. Place your answers into the Q&A pod now. We will give the correct answer on the next slide. Start collecting the documents needed to prove LMWFA eligibility to apply. They will be required for every position you apply to under this hiring authority. The SF50 Notification of Personnel Action Form is a very important document. It is your written documentation that affects your position or pay. As a LMWFA applicant, it is your responsibility to contact your agency to collect the necessary documents required as proof of your more than 24 months of service. The job announcement for which you apply will have specific instructions in the required documents section. Performance documentation is also required for each period of the more than 24 months of service. An official form or a letter from the supervisor describing the work, your performance, and exact dates of the service period may also be accepted. If you cannot obtain these, you are required to provide a stated reason as to why the appraisal or documentation is not available, and a statement that your performance for the periods worked was at an acceptable level. Your most recent separation was for reasons other than misconduct of performance, and you were never notified that you were not eligible for rehire based on performance. Many LMWFA candidates were hired previously under the time-limited competitive appointments. These appointments are either temporary, such as 1039 appointments, or term appointments. Only competitive service appointments count towards LMWFA eligibility, and accepted service temporary appointments are not creditable. The service type will be shown on the SF50. Some additional information on the LMWFA hiring authority includes: selectees are given career or career conditional appointments. Applicants hired under this hiring authority are not required to serve a probationary period. And lastly, there are no limitations on grade levels or occupational series. Once you determine which hiring authorities you are eligible to apply under, you'll need to determine if you meet the qualification standards of each position you're interested in applying for. Qualification standards are a description of the minimum requirements necessary to perform work of a particular occupation successfully. These minimum requirements may include specific general and specialized experience, as well as education. They are not designed to rank candidates, identify the best qualified for a particular position, or substitute for an analysis of an applicant's knowledge, skills, abilities, and competencies. If you answered true to the question on the previous slide, you are correct. KSAs stands for Knowledge, Skills, and Abilities. Now that we have defined what qualification standards are, we'll discuss why understanding and addressing these standards is so important. It's highly recommended that you review the entire job announcement to understand all aspects of the position and its expectations, including the qualification requirements. You must meet these qualifications for the series and grade, as outlined in the job announcement, in order to be considered for the position. Your application and resume must clearly show that you possess the experience required, be it general or specialized. Transcripts must be provided for qualifications based on education. In some instances, providing course descriptions could be necessary to ensure certain courses count toward the requirements. Qualification standards often include experience and education requirements. Experience refers to paid and unpaid experience, including volunteer work done through national service programs such as Peace Corps or AmeriCorps, and other organizations such as professional, religious, community, student, or social. Volunteer work helps build critical competencies, knowledge, and skills, and can provide valuable training and experience that translates directly to paid employment. You will receive credit for all qualifying experience, including volunteer experience. General experience is progressively responsible clerical, office, field, or other type of experience that shows you can perform the duties of the job being filled. Specialized experience is defined as experience in or related to the duties of the position being filled that equips the applicant with the particular competencies and KSAs to successfully perform the duties of the position. Some qualification standards have specific educational, licensure, or certification requirements that may apply only to specific positions in an occupational series. This may include specific amounts of education that have to be completed, usually a specified number of semester hours, as well as specific types of degrees or coursework. As previously discussed, your resume, application, and the documents you upload must show that you meet the experience and education requirements of any position for which you apply. Sometimes we get questions from applicants about employment suitability. In the Forest Service, suitability is reviewed only after an applicant is selected for a position and provided a tentative job offer by a HR staffer. Should you accept that tentative job offer, you will be asked to complete an OF 306 form, which is the Declaration for Federal Employment, among other pre-employment requirements. On that form, as shown on this slide, you will need to include your full name, social security number, place of birth, U.S. citizenship status, date of birth, selective service registration, military service, and finally, answer specific questions. Here are some examples of the questions. During the last 7 years, have you been convicted, been imprisoned, been on probation, or been on parole? Are you currently under charges for any violation of law? Are you delinquent on any federal debt? Do any of your relatives work for the agency or government organization to which you are submitting this form? There are 8 questions total, and they are listed as 9 through 16 on the form. The circumstances of each event you list will be considered, and in many cases, you can still be considered suitable for federal positions. Your HR staffer will review your completed OF 306 form to determine if you are suitable for federal employment, and depending on how you answered those questions 9 through 16, your form may be forwarded to a suitability specialist for further review and final determination. You will be notified by your HR staffer should you be deemed unsuitable for the position and provided specific info on why that determination was made, at which time the job offer will be rescinded. That is why job offers are tentative at this point. You would not be provided with a confirmed offer until after you clear all pre-employment requirements. As you may know, the Forest Service is organized by regions. The map here gives a visual representation of our regional locations. Each region varies in climate, geography, and the types of work that occurs. For more information, visit the Forest Service on the web. This concludes our presentation portion of the webinar. We are now going to move into our live Q&A session. We encourage you to take full advantage of the subject matter experts we have on hand and ask any questions you may have. I will now turn it over to a member of my team who will moderate the Q&A session.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jess. I'm a recruiter on the national recruitment team, and we also have Stefan Thomas here, and as well as Alex, who is just sharing the slides with us. Please feel free to reach out with any questions you have. We do have one question so far in the Q&A pod. Someone is wondering about when do they need to provide course descriptions as necessary? And so if the position that you're applying for has a degree requirement with certain amount of semester hours required, you'd want to list out the courses that count towards your degree to go along with the position that you're applying for. And you would want to list out the course descriptions if the title of the course is somewhat vague. So you might want to just put a brief description of what was actually covered in the course so that our human resources team, when they review your resume, they understand what you actually learned about in that course. So that's our only question we have right now, but please feel free to ask us any and all questions that you have about getting a job with the Forest Service. And someone asked before about setting up an individual consultation with a human resources staff member, and we put the link to sign up for that in the chat there. So if you want to book a consultation with one of our recruiters to talk one-on-one, you can just follow that link and pick a time that works for you. Okay, we've got some new questions. It says, in the questionnaire, does a candidate rank higher if they have experience or education? I never know how to choose. And it says, I have both. Stefan, do you have any thoughts on that question?
So in the questionnaire, when you answer that question, you should be trying to figure out which one of those best fit your qualifications and your background. And then based on what the work you've been doing, that should be also reflected in your resume and any other documents that you present for supporting documentations. And then if that's a job that requires you to have an education, positive education requirement, that would be considered like part of that package as well. So for instance, a wildlife biologist has a positive education requirement. You have to have some type of degree in wildlife biology, and then any experience that you have on top of that degree just adds to your, it just adds more substance to your application. So hopefully that answers that question.
Okay, then we have another question. Can you explain the time and grade requirements?
So for the time and grade requirements, you have to spend at least 1 year at the lower grade in order to qualify for that next higher grade. For example, if you are a GS 5, in order to get a promotion from that GS 5, you have to be at least 1 year at the 5, or can demonstrate that you have worked somewhere else at the 5 level in order to qualify in the professional series, qualify for the 7, in the tech series, then qualify at the 6. So it's generally 1 year, but that could be a little bit more, a little bit less based on, your supervisor and you meeting the qualifications for the next level other than that 1 year, such as trainings, specific trainings that you need to have or they want you to have before you promote to that next grade level.
Thank you, Stefan. Okay, so here's another one. I was found ineligible for a position I recently applied for when I was actually eligible and had supporting documentation to prove it. The questions for meeting basic qualifications are worded oddly, and I was wondering if they will be worded more clearly in the future. The question that got me was related to career conditional, and I answered no because my SF50s say I am competitive service. Do you have any thoughts on that one, Stefan? I don't know that they'll be changing the wording.
Yeah. Yeah. I I don't know if they'd be changing anything. The questions, you know, those questions have been vetted and put into the process. And if anyone ever feels that they were qualified for the job and they were sent a message and they weren't, they can always open up a help case with HRM. And the sooner you do that, the better. So once you get that message that you are not eligible or qualified, there's a HR number on that application. Call them, ask for a second level review, and then your application can get reviewed by a second or third person.
Someone says, how is veterans' preference?
Say that again.
Question is just, how is veterans' preference? Maybe if you want to explain that a little bit more, add to your question, that might help us answer it more. Do we have any other questions? All right, well, it doesn't look like we have any more questions at this time. So Alejandro, if you want to continue with the rest of the presentation.
Sure thing. So here we have some hiring events to keep an eye on. The Forest Service is hiring for permanent wildland firefighters in various locations. This event consists of 3 phases. Phase 1 is focusing on Region 5, open from August 26th to September 16th, 2022. Phase 2 for Job Corps and Regions 2, 3, 8, and 9 from September 9th to the 28th, 2022. Phase 3, Regions 1, 4, and 6, and that'll be from September 21st to October 11th, 2022. The Forest Service is hiring for partnership coordinators in various locations. Job announcements are open now to the public and will close on September 16th. The application period for the Presidential Management Fellowship Program is open now and will close on September 27th. This is an OPM-led event. The Forest Service will be hiring student and recent graduate positions in forestry, timber, and wildland fire management across the nation in conjunction with the annual Society of American Foresters National Convention occurring September 20th through the 24th, 2022 in Baltimore, Maryland. Applicants do not need to attend the convention to apply. Jobs will be open on USA Jobs from September 19th through the 28th, 2022. The Forest Service will be hiring for temporary seasonal positions, including but not limited to firefighter, recreation, wilderness trails, visitor information, biological science technician, timber sale prep, archaeology technician in various locations. Jobs will be open to the public on USA Jobs from September 29th through October 6th, 2022, and again in January of 2023. The Forest Service will be hiring student and recent graduate positions for many STEM career opportunities in conjunction with the 2022 Women of Color STEM Conference occurring October 6th through the 8th, 2022, virtually and on-site in Detroit, Michigan. Applicants do not need to attend the conference to apply. Jobs will be open on USA Jobs from October 4th through the 13th of 2022. All applications will be accepted on usajobs.gov. We invite you to attend one of our upcoming recruitment events on a variety of topics or invite someone you know that you think would benefit from this information. The upcoming events include Tips for Job Seekers next Wednesday, September 21st, 3 to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Navigating USA Jobs, Wednesday, September 28th, 3 to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Federal Resume Building, Wednesday, October 5th, 3 to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Thank you all for your time today. A career with the Forest Service is a career working for nature, managing and caring for more than 193 million acres of our nation's magnificent lands. Please follow the Forest Service on social media for updates on upcoming events and exciting news.
And Alex, we do have another question. How long could be the selection process? So how long is the selection process? That would vary from job to job and from event to event. Some jobs, it could take, when you're going through the whole process, it could take 3 to 4 months. Some jobs, it might be a month or 2 months. But it would depend on how many applicants, how many jobs were presented at that event, and all those kind of things. And then also how much, workload is on HR at any particular time, because, they are analyzing and doing qualifications for jobs across the agency.
Thank you, Stefan.
You're welcome.
If you have questions that we did not address today, feel free to send an email to our team at sm.fs.recruiting@usda.gov. For upcoming recruitment and hiring events, as well as future webinars and workshops, you may visit the FS Jobs website shown here. Thank you for your time today, and we hope you found this training session valuable.